Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Radha Govindadev ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Krishna Janmashtami Mahamahotsav ki jai. Shri Nandotsav Mahamahotsav ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Vyas Puja ki jai. Shri Virtual Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hi everyone. Thank you for being here again. Some were saying that they missed me yesterday. Believe me, I missed you all also. We had a celebration with kind of the family at home, and I missed being with Radha Govinda so much, but it was really sweet to be with family, to do some puja for my home deities that usually I'm not able to do because I'm normally at Radha Govinda Mandir, usually running around like crazy. So it was nice to be with my deities. It was so nice to be with my family, just all of us together, kind of sitting and doing kirtan together, doing little arti together, just kind of discussing with one another. So today we are going to associate with Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada always says, if you want to associate with me, read my books. So we had days and days of reading from Sri Garga Samhita, which is a book so filled with sweetness. However, it was one that was compiled by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada after Srila Prabhupada left the planet. So while we were given access to this beautiful divine book of spiritual adventures and pastimes, today I wanted to pay homage to Srila Prabhupada, our dear grandfather, our spiritual well-wisher, our very own mentor, the one who has given his life for these books. And I wanted to read from something that he's written. So tonight we'll be reading from the Nectar of Devotion, which has so many fun, small pastimes and so many wonderful details about Krishna, about his bodily features and qualities, and about his life and his activities, and about the devotees and how we can think of Krishna. So we'll be reading from that. My friend Hannah from Krishna Local Creations, she was saying before that we're like a family, and we all get huddled together, and we all try to come together to try and progress in our spiritual lives. And when she was saying that, all I could think of was the way little penguins, they kind of get together when it's really cold, and they all huddle up together, and they're all just kind of like one big group. And it made me think that's how we need to be for Krishna. That's how we need to be for our Krishna consciousness. Let us all huddle together like tiny little penguins discussing the pastimes of our dearmost friend being held together just by all of his adventures. So we usually start with Jai Radha Madhava, and I'm going to sing Jai Radha Madhava. But first, I wanted to sing a little bhajan just at the beginning, just to set the mood, because it's such a festive time of year. And this bhajan is one that is well known. And I'll read the translation first, and then I'll just sing the bhajan. He whose name is Krishna, and whose abode is Gokula, unto such a supreme personality of Godhead, I offer my humble obeisances again and again. He whose mother is Yashoda, and whose father is Nandaji, unto such a cowherd boy named Gopal, I offer my most humble obeisances again and again. He whose beloved is Radha, and whose illusory energy is most astonishing and amazing, unto he whose splendorous complexion is the color of a fresh rain cloud, I offer my humble obeisances again and again. He who sneaks around to steal yogurt and butter and then hides to eat it, and who tends the cows in the company of his cowherd boyfriends, unto he who is the reservoir of playful pastimes, I offer my most humble obeisances again and again. He who prevented the dishonoring of the daughter of King Drupad, and who delivered the elephant Gajendra from the grasp of the alligator, unto he who is the abode of all compassion, I offer my most humble obeisances again and again. He who caused the great war between the Kurus and the Pandavas, and who spoke divine instructions to Arjuna on the battlefield, unto he who is the Lord of all helpless fallen souls, I offer my humble obeisances again and again. So I hope that you will all compassionately bear with me while we sing this beautiful bhajan, which of course is Krishna Jinaka Naam Hai. And if you wanted to look for it, you can find it under that name. And I really like this song because it's such a simple song. And it reminds me that Krishna loves these just simple outpourings of love. Doesn't have to have complicated language, doesn't have to have advanced grammar. It's just a beautiful song about how much we love him. And I always think of the inhabitants of Vrindavan and Krishna's boyhood friends, his gopas. And they would sing beautiful songs just composed of Krishna's names. And some might think, well, those songs are not very advanced, but Krishna loved to hear those songs the most. So this is one song that I really love because its beauty is in its simplicity. Krishna Jinaka Naam Hai, Gokula Jinaka Dhama Hai, Aisa Shri Bhagavan ko mera बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है। यशोदा जिनकी मैया है, नंद जी बापया है, ऐसे श्री गोपाल को मेरा बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है। राधा जिनकी जया है, अद्भुत जिन मैया है, ऐसे श्री घनश्याम को मेरा बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है। कृष्ण जिनका नाम है, गोकुल जिनका दाम है, ऐसे श्री भगवान को मेरा बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है। लूट लूट धदिमा कनकाया, ग्वाल भाल संग देनु चढ़ाया, ऐसा लीला धाम को मेरा बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है। द्रुपद सुत को लाज बचाया, ग्रह से गज को फंद चुराया, ऐसा कृपा धाम को मेरा बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है। कुरुपांडव को युद्ध मचाया, अर्जुन को उपदेश सुनायो, ऐसे दीन नाथ को मेरा बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है। कृष्ण जिनका नाम है, गोकुल जिनका धाम है, ऐसा श्री भगवान को मेरा बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है। भज रे भज गोविंद गोपाल हरे, भज रे भज गोविंद गोपाल हरे। ओ राधे गोविंद जय जय राधे गोविंद, राधे गोविंद जय जय राधे गोविंद, भज मन राधे गोविंद जय जय राधे गोविंद, राधे गोविंद जय जय राधे गोविंद, राधे 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 गोविंद, ओ राधे 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 गोविंद, जय जय राधे गोविंद जय जय राधे गोविंद, ओ राधे गोविंद भज मन राधे गोविंद। ऐसा श्री भगवान को मेरा बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है। श्री राधा गोविंद देव की जय, श्री कृष्ण चंद्र भगवान की जय। So thank you for being with me through that entire bhajan. I'm so grateful for all of you, and I'm so grateful for Srila Prabhupada, who crossed 7 seas on a month-long ship voyage on a cargo freight Jaladuta, just to give us the holy name, just to give us the most priceless thing that he knew of, and not for his benefit, but only for our own. He had no reason to leave Sri Vrindavan Dham, but the devotees' hearts are the compassionate abode of Sri Krishna that is spoken about even within this song. I can't imagine being on any traveling vessel for a month. Not a plane, not a car, not a boat, nothing. For 28, 30 days. I cannot fathom being on anything for that long. Being away from family, being away from festivals. He spent Janmashtami on that ship. He didn't have an elaborate feast. He didn't have thousands of devotees singing Jai Kanhaiya Lal Ki. He didn't have any of that. The only way he could make a festival was by doing it himself. And the only way he could participate in that festival was in his mind. So in that way, I'm so fortunate. Even though I wasn't able to be at Radha Govinda Mandir, I had family. I had the pastimes of our best friend. We had singing. We had playing of instruments. We had a feast. And we were all together, re-energizing each other with all of our strength and love. Huddling together like little penguins. Gathering strength and love and affection from one another. I knew that even the next day I would come back and be with all of you again. We have so much just because of Srila Prabhupada's love and compassionate heart. So the best thing we can do is read his books with love and devotion. Read them to each other. Join in together. And be happy at heart. Celebrating these festivals however we can. This is how we pay our respects. Our most humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada again and again. Shri Krishna saved his life. Who can survive several heart attacks on a boat without a doctor? Who can survive heart attacks without rushing to the hospital? Nowadays, someone suffers some life crisis and we think the first thing is, take them to the doctor, take them to the hospital. Not one, but several heart attacks on a boat. Just praying to Krishna. Let me fulfill the mission of my Gurudev. Let me fulfill the mission and the instruction of my spiritual master. Just let me continue a little longer. Shri Krishna saved his life so he could come here to New York and give these messages to the entire world through the mouthpiece of New York, through the microphone of New York. New York had no good qualities. But Srila Prabhupada came and bestowed upon it all benedictions, all wealth, all opulence. He made it the abode of Shri Shri Radha Govinda. He installed those deities. He made it their home. He placed their feet here, and then they began to enact beautiful pastimes. Srila Prabhupada used this place, which is filled with dirt and grime. He used it as the launch pad for a global movement. A movement where, unlike so many traditions, the spiritual founder did not say, I am God, worship me. He said, no, just listen to my good fortune. I am not God, but I know who God is. If you just listen to my good fortune, it will become your good fortune as well. I cannot repay that debt. But I can read from Srila Prabhupada's books. We can associate with him, and we can start to repay it just by being Krishna conscious. Srila Prabhupada always expressed the idea that if he would make one pure devotee, one believer, he would consider his whole entire mission a success. We have the opportunity to just rise to the standard. It may not happen today. That's okay. We know it may not even happen tomorrow. But little by little, step by step, every day, we can just come a little bit closer to just believing. Believing with all our hearts. And in that way, we can pay homage to Srila Prabhupada. We can repay this beautiful gift that he has given us. We will make him happy. We will make him proud. He will be so thankful that he braved storms and seasickness, heart attacks, confusion. He will be so thankful to have undergone all of that if we simply endeavor to become better and more believing than the day before. One of my friends asked me if I undertake a resolution for Janmashtami. And I thought, wow, I've been celebrating Janmashtami my entire life. And somehow, I never thought to make a resolution. But I want to rededicate myself to becoming Srila Prabhupada's granddaughter. To somehow believing a little bit more than I did the day before. I want to believe in Krishna's mercy, in Krishna's love, in Krishna's miracles, in Krishna's blessings. If I only believed a little bit yesterday, let me believe just a little bit more today. And I know that in time, I'll get there. With confidence, with conviction, with patience, determination, enthusiasm, we'll get there. So that is my resolution, to believe. Believe in loving Krishna. And that loving Krishna is the best out of anything I could ever do. So, yeah, so many people are saying, I keep thinking how he managed the weather of the West at that age. If the heart attacks didn't get him, winter in New York would have. But he did it. All of those mystical powers and potencies that they say are given to a devotee in order so that that devotee can pursue their devotional service. It is said that all mystical potencies, supernatural powers are gifted to a devotee just so that they can carry out their devotional service. I truly believe that Srila Prabhupada used all of those in the service just so that he could give us Krishna. Because it is no small feat to endure a winter in New York. They are harsh. Sometimes we are colder than Russia. And sometimes in the summer we are hotter than Mumbai. New York has such extreme weather. To go through all of that is so difficult. But he did it. And our parents, my parents, are doing it. They are serving day in, day out. My mother sews dresses for Radha Govinda. She's been sewing for them for decades. And she can sew for hours on end. She'll stay up late. She'll go with little sleep for days on end, and she does it. These are the mystical potencies that I'm seeing in our modern day sadhus. I'm looking, saying, my parents they just want to serve. So when you look at your parents, when you look at your family members, even when you just look at the older devotees who are surrounding you, they are doing extraordinary things, miraculous things, on the strength and the conviction of just serving Krishna, following Srila Prabhupada's orders, following in the footsteps of this greatest Acharya. So I want to read from the Nectar of Devotion, but we can't start without properly inaugurating the mystical, spiritual realm of Vrindavan in our hearts with Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jannavallabha Giri Varadhari Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jannavallabha Giri Varadhari Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Someone is asking, can we hear from you and your mother Kuntita as well someday in a live like this? Well, my sister is watching, and the people have spoken. So Akuntita, apparently our aim, our goal, is to do a joint live. So we'll have to plan one of those soon. I wanted to read from the Nectar of Instruction because I was wondering what to read from. And my sister, Akuntita, said, why don't you read from Nectar of Devotion? Why don't you read from Nectar of Devotion? It's not often read from. I said, you know what, you're right. And I wrote an adaptation of a really sweet story that's located within Nectar of Devotion. So why don't I read from Nectar of Devotion about beautiful devotees, about Krishna's gorgeous qualities, about his parents, about the ways to achieve him and his mercy in ecstatic, loving devotion, and read the adaptation, because once you see where it's come from, it holds that much more weight. I think that's what I have to do. And she said, see, there you go. So that's how I got to be reading from Nectar of Devotion this evening. Such a gorgeous, wonderful summary of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. And I've read the direct translation of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And it is so difficult to read. Srila Rupa Goswami was such a master of grammar. And he was such a master at phrasing and Sanskrit slokas that just reading through the direct translation, it took me an hour just to read a paragraph, because I would read it again and again and again and try and see, okay, what is he trying to say? Wow, there's so much deep meaning. But Srila Prabhupada has given us the summary. He has condensed the essence of all of this, squeezed it like you squeeze a mango for all the juice. And he's given us the essence. He's given us this translation. And he didn't even give us all of the Sanskrit which is in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, knowing that our minds would become completely confused and overwhelmed with all of it. He gave us the basics, the fundamentals, the goal, the means, the essence, and the complete attainment of all the goals. He gave it all to us. So I wanted to read from this glorious work and pay respect to Srila Prabhupada and have a discussion about how wonderful Krishna is there's a chapter in Krishna book called Wonderful Krishna. And I love that chapter because it's so simple. What should you name the chapter? Wonderful Krishna, because he's wonderful. And I've always loved it. So I feel like that's the simplicity of Srila Prabhupada. He followed in the footsteps of all of these acharyas and just simply gave Krishna as wonderful as he is. So there are many, many sections to the Nectar of Devotion. But I think I'll start with this one. This is about offering prayers. And I'm a firm believer in offering prayers and the power of prayer. I love being able to pray to Krishna. So this section begins. According to great learned scholars, the whole Bhagavad Gita contains many authorized prayers, especially in the 11th chapter, where Arjuna prays to the universal form of the Lord. Similarly, in the Gotamiya Tantra, all the verses are called prayers. Again, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are hundreds of prayers to the Lord. So a devotee should select some of these prayers for his recitation. In the Skanda Purana, the glories of these prayers are stated as follows. Devotees whose tongues are decorated always with prayers to Lord Krishna are always given respect, even by the great saintly persons and sages, and such devotees are actually worshipable by the demigods. Those who are less intelligent want to worship different demigods for some material gain rather than worship Krishna. But here, it is stated that a devotee who always engaged in offering prayers to the Lord, who is always engaged in offering prayers to the Lord, is worshipable, even by the demigods themselves. The pure devotees have nothing to ask from any demigod, but rather the demigods are anxious to offer prayers to the pure devotees. So we should know when we recite the different prayers that are located within Srimad Bhagavatam, within so many literatures, we should know that we are never alone. Never. All of these demons who have done so many thousands of years of penance just to attract a demigod or other, so that they can receive so many powers. The devotees of Krishna attain that same association just by reciting his prayers. The moment we are reciting those prayers, we are never alone. Hosts of demigods are anxious, eager to arrive at that spot to glorify the devotee. This is amazing. It's unfathomable, inconceivable, that the greatest personalities in the universe, personalities stronger than you or I, all of us, they flock in the thousands to go see those devotees who just recite the prayers of Sri Krishna. How fortunate are we that we have access to so many prayers. All we have to do is chant them. And sometimes we think, let me chant something else. Let me sing a different song. Let me think of something else, some pop music, something, anything. Let's take advantage of our best fortune, our wealth. The demigods can bestow any kind of benediction, but they are most anxious to bestow praise and their love and affection on the devotees of Krishna, because they know that they want that association themselves. And here we are blessed with such association. Let us not take it for granted. Let us run to every opportunity we have to recite prayers, to recite the pastimes of Krishna, and attract the entire universe. That is how we give pleasure to everyone. Otherwise, it's impossible to make everybody happy. We'll just find ourselves depressed trying. But if we give ourselves up to chanting the name, fame, glories, and pastimes of Krishna, we make everybody happy. Just like that. In the Nrsimha Purana, it is stated, any person who comes before the deity of Lord Krishna and begins to chant different prayers is immediately relieved from all the reactions of sinful activities and becomes eligible, without any doubt, to enter into the Vaikuntha Loka. I'm going to read that benediction again because it is a promise for all of us. In the Nrsimha Purana, it is stated, any person who comes before the deity of the Lord, the deity of Lord Krishna, and begins to chant different prayers, is immediately relieved from all the reactions of sinful activities and becomes eligible, without any doubt, to enter into the Vaikuntha Loka. We are thinking that we're undergoing the reactions of so many past karmic deeds, whether good or bad, and we're suffering, and we want relief from that suffering. Here is the antidote. We're all looking for some solution. They say upai. Everyone is looking for that solution. This is it. Any person, doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you have done in your past. Any person who comes before the deity of Lord Krishna and begins to chant different prayers is immediately relieved from all the reactions of sinful activities and becomes eligible, without any doubt, to enter into the Vaikuntha Loka. How fortunate are we to have these deities? How fortunate are we to have the form of Lord Krishna, Govinda, Madhava, Sham, Sundar, Gopinath. How fortunate. Coming before the deity of the Lord is as simple as walking into the next room in your home. It's as simple as closing your eyes and just reaching down to the area of your heart. Our Krishna is so merciful. He will appear anywhere. And what does he say to Narada? I don't live in Vaikuntha. I don't live with sages and saints and yogis. My abode is that place where my devotees sing about me. That is where I live. So Srila Prabhupada has also given us this instruction. This is it. This is our upai. This is our medicine. This is our solution. Just go before the deity. Begin offering prayers and watch your life begin to change. Know that it will happen with belief and firm faith. In that vein, I wrote a poem within Premamala called Tragic. It was different from the days when we didn't speak. The distance and the silence saying a soul's worth more than I ever could have. No, it was much worse than that. I spoke to you with eyes half closed, whispered your names, but the sound was hollow. I courted you with stolen attention, looked at you while my mind flirted shamelessly with everything else. The death of us wasn't in the silence. It was hidden in the complacency, tucked deep down in the familiar. I looked at you, and one day, my heart didn't skip a beat. My pulse stayed level, and the butterflies in my stomach stayed firmly put where they were. I looked at you one day and felt normal, ordinary, as though it were an everyday occurrence, and that was the greatest tragedy of all. How many times have I been before the deity of my Govinda and I have not begun to offer prayers? I looked at him as though everything were normal. That complacency, what has it done to my relationship with him? And not that he would love me any less, but that I would start to think that I could do life without him. I have to take it seriously. I have to know that this is the greatest love story of my entire life, of lifetimes. This is the love story of the soul. I have to know this. So this is the beauty of prayers. And the flip side is when we don't offer prayers, when we don't call out to the deity of our heart, we feel ordinary. Nothing has changed. Krishna is Krishna. I'm me. I can do life on my own. That is a tragedy. That is a tragedy. Never should a moment go by when I don't think, no, Krishna, Govinda, I can't do this without you. You are all I have. I want to look at you and feel like every time is the first time. Every moment should feel like 12 years or more, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says himself. Oh Govinda, feeling your separation one moment is like 12 years or more. I should feel like this. And I don't. But all hope is not lost. Every day, I can pray, I can chant, I can read, and I can talk to all of you. And if I do that with faith, then, slowly but surely, I will feel that way. Every time I look at Govinda, it will feel like the first time. My heart will skip a beat, my pulse will race, and butterflies will swarm in my stomach. I will feel as though I am a person in love. Day by day, just endeavor a little. Okay, so we have to continue. Srila Prabhupada says so many wonderful things. It gets impossible to fit it all into just 1 hour. However, he speaks about the parenthood of Sri Krishna. And he talks about Mother Yashoda's incredible love for Krishna and the ecstatic love that she exhibits while taking care of her Krishna. He says that there is a prayer by a Brahmana who says, let others worship the Vedas and the Upanishads, and let others worship the Mahabharata. if they are afraid of material existence and want to become liberated from that condition. But as far as I am concerned, I wish only to worship Maharaj Nanda, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is crawling in his courtyard as his own child. He says that Mother Yashoda is surrounded by silk and linen clothes, and her breasts are always flowing with milk because of her affection for Krishna. When she churns butter, tightly holding the rope, the bangles on her hands and the earrings on her ears are moving. And from the movement, the nice decoration in her hair and the flowers are slackening and falling. And there are drops of perspiration on her face. Srila Prabhupada says that this is the goal. Not that we should sit in a solitary place and simply meditate on Krishna and somehow achieve that transcendence. Srila Prabhupada says that we should be busy in service. And so the drops of perspiration on Mother Yashoda's forehead are glorified because she is busy for Krishna, always. There is another description of Mother Yashoda in a devotee's prayer. Listen carefully. Let me be given protection by Mother Yashoda, whose curly hairs are bound with thread, whose hair is very brightly beautified by the vermilion placed in the part of her hair, and whose bodily frame derides all her ornaments. Just her body is enough to make fun of all ornaments. What ornaments can compare to the beauty of Mother Yashoda? Her eyes are always engaged in seeing the face of Krishna, and thus they are always filled with tears. She has a complexion like the bluish lotus flower. Srila Prabhupada's own words. Mother Yashoda's complexion is like a bluish lotus flower, which is enhanced in beauty by her dressing herself with many colorful garments. Let her merciful glance fall on all of us, so that we may be protected from the clutches of Maya and smoothly progress in our devotional service. What a gorgeous prayer. Srila Prabhupada has given us everything. Let her merciful glance fall on all of us. All of us, even you watching, so that we may be protected from the clutches of Maya and smoothly progress in our devotional service. Shri Yashoda Maya ki jai, Nanda Maharaj ki jai, Shri Krishna Kanhaiya Lal ki jai. So, this brings me to the section that I adapted, which speaks about the ecstatic symptoms of other devotees. Once, an old mendicant approached the door of Mother Yashoda's house, and Krishna told Yashoda, "My dear mother, I do not wish to go near this skinny villain. If I go there, he might put me within his begging bag and take me away from you." In this way, the wonderful child Krishna began to look at his mother, while the mendicant who was standing in the door tried to hide his smiling face, although he could not do so. He immediately expressed his smiling. In this instance, Krishna himself is the object of laughing affairs. So now here is the piece that I wrote, inspired by that one small section about devotees who serve even within laughing affairs. Bhiksham dehi maya. The mendicant hobbled close to the main entrance of Nanda Bhavan, his stomach growling almost as loudly as his call for alms. His joli, his begging bag, swung lightly by his side. The begging bag might have been full had he remembered to stop at the other houses along his usual route, but he found himself eager to reach this one, very special mansion. No sooner than he had called out, he heard the tinkling that announced that his good fortune had arrived. Standing in the doorway with a golden tray in her hands, piled high with grains, was the queen of Vrindavan. Like a rare blue lotus, her face was the model which gave kindness its ultimate meaning. Her ornaments shimmered in the sunlight, but as she stepped forward, a movement caught the mendicant's eye. Backing slowly away from the door and pulling the end of Yashodarani's veil with him was Krishna. Suddenly, the mendicant wasn't so hungry anymore. The small boy was eyeing him warily, constantly backing away from the doorway, away from him. Forced to take a step back, Yashodarani finally turned her attention to her son. "Are Kana, what are you doing? Come and give charity to this mendicant." Yashoda faced the boy with a gentle smile and took his hand in her own. But just as quickly as she had grasped his hand, his tiny hand slipped back out and he disappeared behind her, completely hidden from sight. The mendicant craned his neck, trying unsuccessfully to get a glimpse of Krishna. The boy's head, with his curly black hair that was growing longer and getting into his eyes, popped out from behind one of Yashodarani's legs. With his beautiful little forearm, he brushed his hair back and out of his eyes. "Maya, I do not wish to go anywhere near that skinny villain. If I go there, he looks like he just might put me in his joli and take me away from you. He's going to take me away with him forever." It sounded like Krishna had tried and failed to whisper, his voice carrying easily to where the mendicant stood. Krishna looked up at his mother, his eyes filled with anxiety and fear, before he cast another uncertain glance at the mendicant. Try as he might, the mendicant couldn't hold in his amusement, and he began to smile at the child's confusion. He gazed unblinkingly at the child for as long as he could, until Yashoda Dulal caught him staring and ducked behind his mother again. Feeling full at heart, the mendicant, still smiling, raised his hands in blessing to the charming darling of Vrindavan and continued along his way, knowing for sure that he had definitely gotten, what he came for from the largest mansion in all of Braj. I find myself begging for everything and more from this world, all in an effort to somehow make me happy in this land where I believe that I am in charge. When will I come and beg for the one thing which will actually make me happy? When will I simply beg for you? And on that day, when I finally make my way to love's doorstep, begging for just a glimpse of you, please don't run. Please don't hide. Know that I absolutely need you. Know that I need to wrap you up in my heart and take you away with me forever. Oh Govinda, you give pleasure to even the most grave and serious personalities. May the Lord, who is charming, mischievous, and playful, the Lord who is the darling son of Yashodarani and Nandaraj, the Lord who inspired laughter and amusement all throughout his beloved city of Vrindavan, be my constant shelter. May Lord Govinda protect us all and give us the special benediction of his devotional service. There are so many such pastimes that are so small and adorable within Nectar of Devotion. I find that I could write a whole book adapting them just like this one. These scenes of Sri Vrindavan Dham are so beautiful and so rare. But the treasure house has been unlocked by Srila Prabhupada and has been given to us all freely. We have the key. It is simply by offering prayers. If we can't offer prayers to Krishna, then we can offer prayers to his devotees. Sometimes they say, when I look at Krishna, sometimes I can't see him. I look at the form of Krishna in the deity and I can't see him. But when I experience the kindness of the devotees, then I know Krishna is real. Then I experience his mercy, his kindness, and his love, because his devotees are the abode and the shelter of all compassion. So thank you. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for being here for me. Thank you for tuning in for this festival dedicated to his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada, who is the abode of kindness and compassion for all of us. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter what you looked like. Srila Prabhupada was ready to give Krishna to you. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Grandpa. Thank you for giving us all this entryway into Sri Vrindavan Dham, where we can see the innumerable rainbows of devotional service. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Nandalal Sri Krishna Bhagavan, who loves not being Bhagavan, who loves making his associates and his devotees laugh, even at him. He gives pleasure to all the devotees, all the senses, all the cows, all the land, and therefore he is known as Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. All glories to our Govinda. Thank you again. I'll see you again next time, and we may have to continue reading from Nectar of Devotion because there is so much that we didn't even get to the tip. Just barely reached the shore of this ocean of devotional service. This Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this nectar ocean. We barely reached the shore. So we may have to continue. I'll see you all again. In the meantime, pray for me, and I'll pray for you. And in this way, Govinda can't ignore any of us. Hare Krishna. See you again soon.